Take a slow, comfortable breath, and allow the noise of the modern world to drift gently away. Tonight, you are not surrounded by electric lights or the distant hum of passing cars. Instead, you find yourself in a small medieval village, where the only sounds are the whisper of the wind, the occasional hoot of an owl, and the soft crackling of dying embers inside a humble stone cottage. You are a blacksmith. Not a famous knight. Not a wealthy merchant. Not a powerful lord. Just an ordinary craftsman whose hands help keep an entire village alive. Long before the rooster announces the coming dawn, your day quietly begins. Outside, the sky is still wrapped in darkness. Thousands of tiny stars shimmer overhead, while a thin silver moon hangs low above the rooftops covered with straw. The air is surprisingly cold. Even inside your cottage, your breath forms small clouds as you slowly open your eyes. Your bed is little more than a wooden frame stuffed with straw beneath a thick wool blanket. It is not especially soft, but after yesterday's endless hours of swinging a heavy hammer, it feels wonderfully comfortable. For another moment, you simply lie still. The village is asleep. No voices. No wagons. No barking dogs. Only silence. Eventually, you sit up slowly, careful not to wake your wife and young children sleeping nearby beneath their own blankets. Every movement feels familiar. Your shoulders ache. Your arms remain heavy from countless hammer blows delivered yesterday. Tiny burns cover your hands. Small scars trace nearly every finger. To someone from the future, your hands might seem damaged. To a medieval blacksmith, they are simply proof of experience. You pull on a rough linen shirt that smells faintly of smoke, followed by thick wool trousers patched many times over the years. Heavy leather boots wait beside the bed. The leather is cracked.
The soles have been repaired more than once. Fortunately, you know exactly who repaired them. You did. Nothing inside your household goes to waste. A leather belt wraps around your waist, and over one shoulder hangs a thick work apron darkened by years of soot, sparks, and sweat. The forge never truly leaves your clothing. Even after washing, the scent of charcoal lingers. You quietly lift the wooden latch and step outside into the sleeping village. The cold morning air greets your face. Above you, the stars seem impossibly bright. Without city lights, the heavens stretch from one horizon to the other like an endless river of sparkling diamonds. A narrow dirt road winds between modest cottages built from timber frames and clay walls. Most windows remain dark. Behind those walls sleep farmers, millers, bakers, shepherds, and carpenters. In just a few hours, many of them will visit your forge carrying broken tools. Without your work, their work becomes much harder.
You begin walking. Your boots make soft crunching sounds against the frozen ground. Somewhere nearby, a horse shifts gently inside its stable. A sleepy chicken rustles beneath its feathers. The village church stands silently at the center of the settlement, its wooden bell tower silhouetted against the fading night sky. Soon enough, those bells will ring. But not yet. Right now, the world belongs only to early risers like yourself. After a short walk, your workshop finally appears. It is a simple stone building with a tall chimney reaching into the darkness. Even before opening the heavy wooden door, you recognize its familiar smell. Charcoal, ash, iron, smoke. It is the scent of your entire life. You push open the door with a slow creak. Inside, everything waits exactly where you left it yesterday evening. The great stone forge sits silently in the corner. The massive anvil rests upon an ancient oak stump polished smooth by decades of hammer strikes. Rows of hammers hang neatly along one wall. Tongs of every shape wait patiently nearby. Iron bars lean against stacked bundles of charcoal. Everything is quiet. For now. Because in only a few minutes, this peaceful workshop will awaken with glowing fire, ringing steel, and the steady rhythm that has echoed through blacksmith shops for centuries. But first, the fire must live again. You pause for a moment in the quiet darkness of the workshop. The silence feels almost sacred. Yesterday's work may have ended many hours ago, but the forge is never truly asleep. Beneath the thick blanket of gray ash, tiny embers may still be hiding, patiently waiting for someone to wake them. You kneel beside the hearth. The stone floor feels cold through your boots as you reach for a long iron poker. Slowly, carefully, you begin moving the ash aside. Soft scraping sounds echo through the empty workshop. A small cloud of fine gray dust rises into the air before drifting toward the chimney. For several long moments, there is nothing. Only ash. Only silence. Then, a tiny point of orange appears. One little ember. Still alive. A faint smile crosses your face. In a world without matches or electric heaters, finding a living ember means saving both time and precious fuel. You gently place several pieces of dry straw over the glowing spot. Then come a few thin twigs collected the previous afternoon. You bend close and blow softly. Not too hard. Just enough. The tiny ember brightens. Orange becomes yellow. Yellow becomes a flicker of flame. The fire is awake. You add slightly larger sticks, arranging them carefully so that air can move between them. Fire, like every living thing, must be allowed to breathe. Soon the little flames begin licking the edges of the wood, filling the workshop with the familiar scent of burning oak. Now comes the charcoal. Unlike ordinary firewood, charcoal burns hotter and cleaner. It is the heart of every medieval forge. Without it, iron would never grow soft enough to shape. You lift several black lumps from a wooden basket and place them over the growing fire. For a few quiet moments, nothing seems to happen. Then tiny red cracks begin appearing inside each piece. The charcoal slowly comes alive. The workshop grows a little warmer. Not much. Just enough to take the sharp edge off the morning cold. Your eyes drift toward the great wooden bellows standing beside the forge. It is nearly as tall as a man. Built from oak, leather, and iron nails, it has faithfully served your workshop for many years. Every village blacksmith knows that fire alone is not enough. Iron requires more than flame. It requires air. You wrap one hand around the long wooden handle and pull it downward. The leather sides of the bellows expand with a deep, slow breath. Then you push. A powerful stream of air rushes into the heart of the fire. Instantly, the charcoal glows brighter. Orange becomes brilliant yellow. Tiny sparks leap upward like a swarm of golden fireflies before disappearing into the chimney. Again. Pull. Push. Breathe. The bellows almost seem alive. With every steady movement, the forge answers. Soon the fire begins to roar, not loudly, but with a deep, comforting sound that you have known since childhood. To many people, it might seem noisy. To you, it sounds like home. The warmth spreads through the workshop, chasing away the night's chill. The stone walls begin to reflect the flickering orange light, and the polished face of the anvil catches the glow like a dark mirror. You rest your hand gently upon its smooth surface. This anvil has seen thousands upon thousands of hammer blows. Its edges are worn. Its face bears tiny marks from generations of work. Perhaps your father used it. Perhaps even your grandfather. Tools in the Middle Ages are not easily replaced. Good iron is expensive. A well-made anvil may serve a family for a lifetime, or longer. You run your fingers across the familiar dents and scratches. Each one tells the story of a horseshoe, a plowshare, a knife, a hinge, or a wagon well repaired long ago. Outside, the eastern horizon begins to change. The black sky softens into deep blue. One by one, the brightest stars begin to fade. Somewhere beyond the workshop walls, a rooster finally crows. Its call echoes across the sleeping village. Another answers from farther away. Soon, smoke will rise from cottage chimneys. Farmers will prepare their oxen. Bakers will slide fresh loaves into their ovens. Millers will turn their water wheels. And before long, someone will knock on your workshop door with a tool that needs your hands. But for these few peaceful moments, the forge belongs only to you. Only the steady breathing of the bellows. The gentle crackle of charcoal, and the quiet promise of another long day in a medieval village. The first rays of sunlight have not yet reached the rooftops, but the village is no longer asleep. A pale blue glow stretches across the eastern horizon, gently pushing the darkness away. Mist clings to the fields beyond the village, where rows of barley and rye shimmer with tiny drops of morning dew. The air is cool, carrying the fresh scent of damp earth mixed with the familiar aroma of charcoal drifting from your chimney. Inside the forge, the fire burns steadily now. The bed of charcoal glows a deep orange, and gentle waves of heat rise into the air. Every iron tool hanging on the wall catches the dancing light, casting long shadows across the stone floor. You take a slow breath. There is something comforting about these quiet moments before the day's work truly begins. They never last very long. A soft knock echoes against the heavy wooden door. 3 slow taps. You already know who it is. Without looking, you call for them to enter. The wooden door opens with a gentle creak, and a young boy steps inside, rubbing sleep from his eyes. It is your apprentice. He cannot be more than 14 years old, though life in the Middle Ages asks children to grow up quickly. His wool tunic is patched at the elbows, and his boots are still damp from the morning grass. He offers a respectful nod. "Good morning, master." His voice is quiet, almost swallowed by the sound of the fire. You return the greeting with a small smile. There is no need for many words. Over the past 2 years, he has begun to understand the rhythm of the forge. Without being asked, he gathers fresh charcoal from the storage bin and carries it to the hearth. His movements are careful now. When he first arrived, he often stumbled, spilling black dust across the workshop floor. Now he works with confidence. You remember your own first days as an apprentice. You remember the burns, the blisters, the aching shoulders after lifting a hammer that seemed far too heavy. No one became a blacksmith overnight. Skill was earned one careful strike at a time. The boy reaches for the bellows. Its leather sides sigh as he begins pumping a slow, steady rhythm. Each breath of air feeds the fire until the charcoal glows almost white at its center. The forge is ready. You walk toward a rack of iron bars stacked neatly along the wall. Each bar represents hours of labor long before it reached your hands. Some iron came from distant mines. Some traveled by wagon over rough roads. Some arrived by riverboat from towns you have never seen. Iron is valuable. Nothing is wasted. Even the smallest scraps are saved for future repairs. You choose a bar no thicker than your thumb. Today it will become something simple. A handful of nails. To people centuries in the future, nails may seem ordinary. They may buy hundreds in a single box without giving them a second thought. But here, every nail is made by hand. Each one begins as solid iron. Each one requires heat, patience, and careful craftsmanship. You grip the bar with a pair of long iron tongs and slide one end into the hottest part of the fire. Now comes the waiting. Iron cannot be rushed. If removed too soon, it remains stubborn and hard. If left too long, it may burn and become brittle. You simply watch. The dark gray metal slowly changes. First a dull red, then cherry red. Soon it glows a brilliant orange. The transformation never grows old. Solid iron begins to soften, almost like thick clay beneath invisible hands. You lift it carefully onto the anvil. For a brief moment, the workshop falls completely silent. Then, clang. The first hammer strike rings through the village. A clear, Strong note echoes from the stone walls before fading into the morning air. Again. Clang. Again. Clang. The rhythm is slow, measured, never hurried. Each strike stretches the glowing iron a little farther. Tiny sparks leap from the anvil, floating through the air like miniature stars before disappearing into darkness. Outside, villagers smile without even realizing it. The sound of your hammer tells them something reassuring. The blacksmith is working. The forge is alive. The village is ready for another day. As the sun finally peaks above the distant hills, golden light spills through the open doorway, mixing with the warm orange glow of the fire. Two different worlds meet inside your workshop. The cool light of morning. The warm light of the forge. Between them, you stand quietly, shaping iron with steady hands, just as countless blacksmiths have done for generations. And this is only the beginning of another ordinary day, one that will demand strength, patience, and skill from sunrise until long after the sun has disappeared beyond the western fields. The steady rhythm of your hammer continues for a little while longer. Clang. A brief pause. Clang. Another careful strike. The sound drifts through the village like the ringing of a familiar bell. It is a sound that tells every farmer, every carpenter, and every merchant that the forge is open for business. The glowing iron in your hands has become a neat row of sturdy nails. They are small, simple things, yet each one has taken time, patience, and careful attention to create. You place them gently into a wooden box already filled with dozens of others. No nail is perfectly identical to the next. That is the mark of handcraft. Outside, the village has fully awakened. Sunlight spreads across the thatched rooftops, turning the morning dew into countless tiny diamonds. Smoke curls lazily from cottage chimneys as families prepare their first meal of the day. Children chase chickens across narrow dirt paths. A shepherd whistles softly while leading a flock of sheep toward distant meadows. Somewhere nearby, the village baker removes the first warm loaves from his stone oven. The sweet scent of fresh bread briefly mingles with the smoky air surrounding your workshop. Your apprentice notices it too. His stomach lets out a quiet growl. You both laugh softly. Breakfast will have to wait. The work comes first. Not long afterward, footsteps approach along the dirt road. Slow. Heavy. Accompanied by the faint squeak of a wooden cart. A familiar face appears in the doorway. It is Thomas, one of the village's oldest farmers. His beard has turned almost completely white, and deep lines crease the corners of his eyes. Years spent beneath the sun have weathered his face, but his smile remains warm. Balanced across his shoulder is a heavy iron plowshare. Or at least, half of one. The sharp metal point has cracked clean through. Thomas sets the broken piece carefully upon your workbench with a weary sigh. "Morning," he says quietly. You greet him with a nod. No lengthy introductions are needed. You have known each other for many years. In a village like this, everyone knows everyone. Thomas runs a rough hand across the damaged iron. It struck a buried stone yesterday, he explains. I was lucky the ox wasn't hurt. You examine the break closely. The fracture is clean, but the metal has grown thin after many seasons of hard use. Nothing lasts forever. Especially tools that spend their lives cutting through stubborn earth. You turn the broken plowshare over in your hands. Its surface bears countless scratches. Tiny dents. Marks left by years of labor. Each scar tells the story of another harvest. Another spring planting. Another long season beneath the open sky. To someone from the future, replacing the tool might seem easier than repairing it. But in your world, iron is too precious to waste. Almost everything can be repaired. You gesture toward the forge. Thomas smiles. He has complete confidence in your work. While the iron heats, the two of you settle onto a simple wooden bench near the workshop door. The apprentice quietly continues pumping the bellows. The steady breathing of the forge fills the silence. For a few moments, neither of you speaks. There is no need. Old friendships are often comfortable in silence. Eventually, Thomas breaks the quiet. The wheat is looking good this year. You nod. There has been enough rain. Not too much. Not too little. A fortunate balance. He tells you that his youngest grandson has begun helping in the fields. The boy is eager. Strong. Perhaps a little impatient. You smile knowingly. Every apprentice is impatient at first. Whether learning to farm or to forge iron. Outside, a pair of swallows dart through the morning sky, swooping gracefully above the rooftops. Their cheerful calls drift into the workshop. The village feels peaceful. Safe. It is easy to imagine that life has always been this way. Yet you know better. Only a few poor harvests. A harsh winter. Or the arrival of disease. Could change everything. Life in the Middle Ages is rarely certain. Perhaps that uncertainty is why simple mornings like this feel so precious. The fire has grown hot enough. The damaged plowshare now glows a brilliant orange deep within the charcoal. You rise slowly. Thomas watches with quiet interest, even though he has seen this process many times before. Using long iron tongs, you lift the glowing metal from the fire. Heat ripples through the air above it. Tiny sparks drift upward. You place it carefully upon the anvil. For just a heartbeat. Everything is still. Then your hammer rises. And with one calm, deliberate strike. The workshop rings once again with the timeless music of iron and steel. Clang. The day has truly begun. The sound of the hammer fades slowly into the morning air. For a brief moment, all you hear is the gentle hiss of the forge and the quiet breathing of the bellows. The glowing plowshare rests upon the anvil, shining a brilliant orange. Heat shimmers above its surface, making the air itself appear to dance. You know there is no time to waste. Iron is patient, but not for long. As it cools, it slowly becomes stubborn once more. You adjust your grip on the tongs, holding the heavy piece firmly against the smooth face of the anvil. The wooden handle of your hammer feels familiar in your hand, polished by years of daily use. Every groove has been shaped by countless hours of honest work. You lift the hammer. Not too high. Strength alone has never made a great blacksmith. Accuracy matters far more. The hammer falls. Clang. The edge of the broken plowshare begins to straighten. Again. Clang. The glowing metal yields ever so slightly. Each strike is measured. Calm. Deliberate. You are not fighting the iron. You are guiding it. Tiny sparks leap into the air, rising like golden fireflies before vanishing against the dark stone walls of the workshop. Your apprentice watches closely. His hands rest quietly on the bellows, giving the fire an occasional steady breath whenever the charcoal begins to lose its brightest glow. He has learned one important lesson already. A forge is a conversation. The fire speaks. The iron answers. The blacksmith simply listens. After several careful hammer blows, the damaged edge has taken shape once more. But the work is only beginning. You return the plowshare to the heart of the fire. The glowing charcoal surrounds it like a nest of tiny suns. The orange light reflects across your leather apron and weathered hands. Waiting becomes part of the craft. Nothing in the forge can be hurried. While the iron reheats, you glance toward the doorway. Thomas remains seated outside on the bench, his cap resting beside him. He seems perfectly content to wait. Patience is another skill every medieval villager must learn. There are no quick deliveries. No factories producing endless replacements. When something breaks, life simply slows until it can be repaired. Across the village square, more people begin their morning routines. A woman carries 2 wooden buckets toward the well. Their handles creak softly with every step. Nearby, a pair of children chase one another around an old oak tree, their laughter carried gently on the cool breeze. An elderly shepherd leads his sheep toward the hills, tapping his walking stick against the ground in a slow, familiar rhythm. From somewhere beyond the cottages comes the steady turning of the village mill. The water wheel groans as it begins another long day of grinding grain into flour. Each person has a task. Each task supports another. The baker depends on the miller. The miller depends on the farmer. The farmer depends on the blacksmith. And the blacksmith depends on everyone else. It is a simple web of quiet cooperation. You often think about that while working. Your forge is only one building among many. Yet without it, plows would remain broken. Axes would grow dull. Horses would lose their shoes. Doors would hang loose from worn hinges. The village would not stop overnight. But little by little, everything would become harder. The apprentice interrupts your thoughts with a gentle nod. The iron is ready again. You remove the plowshare from the fire once more. This time, its color is almost white at the edges. That tells you it is hot enough for the most delicate shaping. You position it carefully. The hammer rises. This time, your blows are lighter, almost graceful. Each strike smooths tiny imperfections left from the earlier repairs. You rotate the iron a fraction after every few blows, checking its shape from every angle. The apprentice watches every movement. He notices how little force you now use. That surprises him. Many beginners believe blacksmithing is about strength. They imagine enormous men swinging giant hammers with all their might. In truth, the finest work often comes from the gentlest touch. The iron tells you what it needs. You simply respond. When the shape is finally correct, you carry the glowing plowshare toward a large wooden barrel filled with cool water. Thomas looks up from his bench. Even after all these years, this part still captures his attention. You lower the hot metal slowly. The instant it touches the water, hisses. A cloud of white steam rises into the workshop, drifting upward like morning fog over a quiet river. The sharp scent of hot iron fills the air. Tiny bubbles race toward the surface. The water dances and ripples. For a few peaceful moments, nothing else matters. Only the soft hiss, the fading steam, and the comforting knowledge that another well-used tool has been given a second life. The last wisps of steam drift lazily toward the rafters. You lift the repaired plowshare from the barrel, beads of water clinging to the darkened iron before slipping quietly back into the wooden tub. The metal is no longer glowing. Instead, it has returned to its familiar gray color, cool enough to inspect but still warm beneath your fingertips. You turn it slowly in the morning light. The edge is straight once again. The crack has disappeared beneath careful workmanship. To someone passing by, it might look like an ordinary farm tool. To Thomas, it means another season of planting. Another harvest. Another chance to provide food for his family. You hand the plowshare back to him with both hands. He studies it carefully, running his thumb along the repaired edge. His weathered face softens into a satisfied smile. "It will serve me well," he says quietly. You simply nod. Praise is welcome, but unnecessary. A blacksmith's greatest reward is seeing a tool return to work. Thomas reaches into a small leather pouch hanging from his belt. Coins are not always plentiful in a medieval village. Sometimes people pay with grain. Sometimes with cheese, eggs, or a bundle of firewood. Today, he offers a few small silver coins and a cloth bag filled with freshly harvested onions. You accept them with gratitude. Nothing is wasted. Everything has value. As Thomas loads the repaired plowshare onto his cart, the slow clopping of hooves approaches along the village road. You look toward the sound. A broad, chestnut-colored draft horse rounds the corner, pulling a modest wooden wagon. The animal moves at an unhurried pace, each step steady and deliberate. Its thick mane stirs gently in the morning breeze. Beside the horse walks Martin, the village miller. His flour-dusted clothes reveal that he has already been working since before sunrise. He raises a friendly hand as he approaches. "Good morning, Smith." "And to you," you reply. Martin pats the horse's powerful shoulder. "I think Bella has thrown a shoe." You crouch beside the mare, speaking softly as you approach. She lowers her head slightly, breathing warm air through her nostrils. Her ears flick toward your voice. Animals remember kindness. Over the years, Bella has visited your forge many times. She knows your scent almost as well as your own dog would. You gently lift her front hoof. It is surprisingly warm. The missing horseshoe has left several nail holes visible around the edge. Fortunately, the hoof itself remains healthy. Only the shoe has been lost somewhere along the muddy road. You stroke Bella's neck before setting her hoof back onto the ground. "There is nothing to worry about," you tell Martin. "A new shoe will not take long." Your apprentice has already begun preparing a fresh length of iron. He has watched this task dozens of times. Perhaps one day, he will perform it himself. For now, he observes carefully. You place the iron bar deep within the glowing charcoal. The forge answers with a quiet roar as the bellows send another breath of air into the fire. Orange light dances across the stone walls. Outside, Bella waits patiently. A few sparrows land nearby, pecking at scattered grains left behind by passing wagons. The village continues its peaceful rhythm. A cooper rolls a newly finished barrel toward the marketplace. A young girl carries fresh milk from her family's cow. The scent of baking bread still drifts through the cool morning air. Everything feels wonderfully ordinary. Perhaps that is the greatest comfort of village life. Most days are not filled with grand adventures. They are filled with familiar routines. The same roads. The same faces. The same gentle greetings exchanged each morning. There is a quiet happiness in such predictability. Soon, the iron reaches the perfect temperature. Its glowing orange curve reminds you of the rising sun itself. Using your tongs, you carry it carefully to the anvil. The workshop falls silent except for the crackling fire. Then the hammer begins its familiar rhythm once more. Clang. A gentle turn. Clang. Another careful adjustment. Clang. Slowly, the straight bar begins to curve. Little by little, it takes the graceful shape of a horseshoe. No two horses have exactly the same hooves. Each shoe must be made to fit the individual animal. That knowledge cannot be found in books alone. It lives in experience, in careful observation. in hands that have shaped hundreds before this one. As the final curve comes into place, you hold the glowing horseshoe against Bella's hoof, not to attach it yet, but simply to check the fit. A tiny curl of smoke rises where the hot iron briefly touches the hard outer hoof. Bella does not panic. She stands calmly, trusting you completely. The brief contact leaves a clear mark, showing exactly where the iron still needs the smallest adjustment. You return to the anvil. Only a few gentle taps remain. Sometimes, the difference between a good horseshoe and a perfect one is no thicker than a grain of barley. The fire crackles softly behind you. The apprentice watches with quiet admiration. And the peaceful work of another medieval morning continues, one careful hammer strike at a time. The new horseshoe cools slowly in the morning air. Bella, the patient draft horse, stamps her hoof gently against the ground as if testing the comfortable fit. She seems pleased, and Martin gives her neck a grateful pat. "There now," he says with a smile. "That should carry us through many more miles." You nod quietly. A well-fitted horseshoe is rarely noticed. And perhaps that is the greatest compliment a blacksmith can receive. Martin thanks you once more before climbing onto his wagon. Bella leans forward into the harness, and the wooden wheels begin to roll. The steady rhythm of hooves and wagon creaks gradually fades down the village road. For a few peaceful moments, your workshop is quiet again. Your apprentice sweeps tiny flakes of iron from around the anvil with a simple straw broom. Nothing is wasted. The larger scraps will be saved. Even the smallest pieces may someday find another purpose. Outside, the morning has grown warmer. Sunlight spills across the village square, illuminating timber-framed cottages with their white plaster walls and dark oak beams. Window shutters swing open one after another. The village is fully awake. You hear distant laughter from children playing beside the well. A flock of geese waddles noisily across the road, completely ignoring the wishes of a passing merchant trying politely to guide his cart around them. Life moves at its own comfortable pace. Then another familiar figure appears. It is William, the village carpenter. He walks with long, confident strides, though today his expression carries a hint of frustration. Across one shoulder rests a heavy woodsman's axe. Or rather, most of an axe. The iron head remains strong, but the wooden handle has split almost completely near the middle. William sighs as he lays it gently upon your workbench. "I suppose yesterday's oak tree won the battle," he says with a quiet chuckle. You smile. Oak usually does. The two of you share a brief laugh. Among craftsmen, there is always mutual respect. You know how difficult it is to shape iron. William knows how difficult it is to shape wood. Neither trade is easy. You lift the damaged axe and examine it carefully. The iron head is in excellent condition. Years of sharpening have kept its edge bright and keen. Only the ashwood handle has finally reached the end of its useful life. Wood, unlike iron, cannot be repaired forever. sometimes it simply deserves a peaceful retirement. You remove the worn handle with several careful taps from a wooden mallet. The old wood slides free. Its smooth surface bears the polished marks of countless hours spent in William's hands. You pause for a moment before setting it aside. It has served faithfully for many years. There is something honorable about well-used tools. They carry silent stories. Each scratch remembers another tree, another beam, another cottage built for another family. William notices your thoughtful expression. That handle has helped build nearly half the village, he says softly. You believe him. Together, the blacksmith and the carpenter have quietly shaped much of the world around you. The doors, the tables, the wagon wheels, the barns, the fences, the bridges. One shapes wood, the other shapes iron. Neither could work without the other. Your apprentice disappears into the storage room and returns carrying several carefully seasoned pieces of ash wood. They have rested there for months, drying slowly beneath the roof. Fresh wood contains too much moisture. A proper handle must be made from timber that has patiently waited. You choose one straight piece with a fine, even grain. It feels balanced in your hands. Strong. Flexible. Exactly what an axe requires. William watches with interest. Although he is an expert carpenter, he enjoys seeing another craftsman approach the same material from a different perspective. You begin shaping the wood slowly with a draw knife. Long, thin curls peel away from the surface. They drift gently to the floor like ribbons. The workshop fills with a fresh scent unlike charcoal or iron. It smells of clean timber. Warm. Earthy. Almost sweet. Sunlight catches the floating wood shavings as they settle quietly around your boots. For a while, no one speaks. There is only the gentle scrape of steel against wood. The occasional crackle from the forge. And birds singing beyond the open doorway. These quiet moments are some of your favorite parts of the day. Not every task requires roaring fires or ringing hammers. Sometimes craftsmanship is patient. Almost meditative. Slowly, the handle begins to emerge. Its graceful curve fits naturally into your hand. Every contour is shaped with purpose. A comfortable grip allows a carpenter to work for hours without unnecessary strain. When the shaping is complete, you slide the iron axe head onto the new handle. It fits snugly but not perfectly. Not yet. You tap it gently into place. Then remove it once more. A little more carving. Another careful fitting. Then another. Good craftsmanship rarely happens on the first attempt. It is a conversation between the craftsman and the material. Eventually, the axe head settles firmly onto the handle with a satisfying, solid sound. No wobble. No gaps. Only a perfect fit. William smiles. Without saying a word, He wraps his hand around the handle and gives the axe a few gentle practice swings through the empty air. It feels balanced, natural, as though it had always belonged there. Outside, a soft breeze rustles through the leaves of the great oak tree standing at the edge of the village. The same kind of tree that may soon become another cottage, another table, or another wagon. Life in the village continues in its quiet, unhurried rhythm. And inside your forge, another simple repair has helped keep that rhythm alive. The carpenter leaves your workshop with a grateful smile. His footsteps fade slowly along the village road, the newly repaired axe resting comfortably across his shoulder. Before long, its steady rhythm will once again echo through the nearby woodland as trees are carefully shaped into beams, doors, and wagons. You watch him disappear around the bend. Then you return to your forge. The fire has settled into a calm, steady glow. The brightest flames have given way to a deep bed of orange charcoal, perfect for the day's continuing work. Every so often, a tiny spark rises toward the chimney before vanishing into the sunlight. Your apprentice adds another small basket of charcoal. He has learned not to overfeed the fire. A forge, much like a garden, thrives on balance. Too little fuel, and the iron refuses to soften. Too much, and valuable charcoal is wasted. The morning has quietly become late morning. Outside, the village square grows busier. A merchant arranges bolts of wool cloth beneath a simple wooden awning. Two women exchange fresh eggs for a loaf of warm bread. A potter carefully unloads stacks of newly fired bowls from a handcart, placing each one with patient hands. Even from your doorway, you can hear the cheerful chatter drifting across the square. Life continues at its gentle pace. Then, in the distance, another sound reaches your ears. Not the slow creaking of a farmer's cart. Not the heavy tread of oxen. This sound is lighter, quicker. The steady rhythm of a horse moving at an easy trot. You glance toward the road. A single rider approaches. The horse is lean and well cared for, its coat shining beneath the late morning sun. Dust clings to its legs after many miles of travel. The rider wears a simple wool cloak fastened with a bronze brooch. Beneath the cloak, a leather belt supports a small satchel and a short sword. Nothing about him suggests a grand knight in shining armor. Instead, he appears to be exactly what he is. A messenger. Someone whose greatest duty is carrying news safely from one place to another. He slows his horse before your workshop and offers a respectful nod. "Good day, Master Blacksmith." "And to you," you reply. The messenger carefully dismounts, stretching his legs with a quiet sigh. Long hours in the saddle have left him stiff. He reaches for the sword at his side. Its leather scabbard is well worn, polished smooth by years of travel. With slow, careful hands, he draws the blade. The steel catches the sunlight. It is not broken, not chipped. But the edge has become dull after years of constant use. Tiny scratches cover its surface. The guard is slightly loose where it meets the blade. Nothing serious. Simply the honest signs of a tool that has faithfully served its owner. The messenger places it gently upon your workbench. I was told no one repairs steel better than you. You smile modestly. There are many fine smiths. Perhaps, he replies. But yours was the first name every villager mentioned. His words are kind, though spoken without exaggeration. Reputation travels slowly in the Middle Ages. It is carried not by advertisements or printed notices, but by conversation. A satisfied farmer tells his neighbor. A merchant speaks to another village. A traveler remembers a helpful blacksmith. Little by little, trust is built. You lift the sword with both hands. It is heavier than many people from the future might expect. A proper medieval sword is carefully balanced, not too heavy to wield, yet solid enough to endure years of use. You hold it horizontally across one open palm. Its center of balance sits just a short distance beyond the guard. Exactly where it should. You turn the blade slowly. The polished steel reflects the dancing light of the forge. Tiny imperfections become visible. Small nicks near the edge. A slight looseness in the hilt. Nothing that cannot be repaired. Contrary to many tales, swords are not constantly clashing against one another in dramatic battles. Most spend far more time hanging quietly at a person's side. Messengers carry them for protection. Town guards wear them while walking peaceful streets. Travelers keep them close during long journeys through forests and lonely roads. For many people, a sword is simply another tool. A tool that requires careful maintenance. Much like a plow, or an axe, or a horseshoe. You nod gently. This will not take long. The messenger smiles with quiet relief. While the blade waits for your attention, he steps outside and offers his horse a bucket of fresh water from the village well. The animal drinks gratefully, its ears flicking contentedly as a cool breeze passes through the square. Inside the forge, you prepare your sharpening stone. Unlike shaping hot iron, sharpening requires patience more than strength. The apprentice places a sturdy wooden bench near the doorway where sunlight falls across the work surface. Natural light reveals every tiny imperfection along the blade's edge. You settle into your seat. The sword rests across your knees. You begin with long, slow strokes of the whetstone. Soft. Even. Unhurried. The rough scrape of stone against steel replaces the ringing of the hammer. It is a quieter music. One perfectly suited to the peaceful rhythm of the day. Each careful pass removes only the smallest amount of metal. There is no hurry. A sharp blade is not created in moments. It is created through dozens of patient movements, each nearly identical to the last. Outside, clouds drift lazily across the bright summer sky. The village carries on with its ordinary business. Children laugh. Birds sing. The forge crackles softly behind you. And somewhere nearby, the church bell quietly marks the passing of another peaceful hour. The final stroke of the whetstone glides gently along the edge of the messenger's sword. You pause. Holding the blade toward the light, you watch a thin silver line shimmer along its length. The small nicks have disappeared, and the edge is once again smooth and even. There is no need to test it dramatically. Years of experience have already told you everything you need to know. You tighten the guard with careful precision, ensuring that nothing shifts beneath your hand. Satisfied, you wipe the blade with a clean linen cloth lightly coated in oil. A thin layer of oil protects the steel from moisture and rust. In a damp climate, such small habits make all the difference. The messenger returns, his horse now refreshed after drinking from the village well. He accepts the sword with quiet appreciation. Drawing it slowly from its scabbard, he examines the polished blade. A smile spreads across his face. It feels as steady as the day I first carried it. You nod. A good tool only asks to be cared for. The messenger agrees. After settling the payment, a few silver pennies and a small pouch of dried apples from a distant town, he climbs back into the saddle. Before leaving, he raises one hand in farewell. May your fire always burn brightly. And may your roads remain peaceful, you reply. The horse steps forward at an easy pace, and within moments both rider and mount disappear beyond the gentle curve of the village road. Silence returns. Only the soft crackle of the forge fills the workshop. Your apprentice stretches his arms. The morning has passed more quickly than either of you realized. Sunlight now pours through the open doorway, warming the worn wooden floor. Dust motes drift lazily through the golden beams of light. Outside, the fields ripple gently beneath a light summer breeze. From where you stand, you can see waves of barley bending together like the surface of a calm sea. The harvest is close. Every farmer in the village knows it. And so do you. The weeks before harvest are always the busiest. Every sickle, every scythe, every pruning hook, every grain knife, all must be ready before the first stalk is cut. As if summoned by that very thought, familiar voices approach. Soon, 3 farmers arrive together, each carrying a bundle of tools across his shoulder. The first lays down 2 worn sickles. Their once sharp edges have grown rounded after months of clearing weeds and trimming brush. The second farmer places a long scythe upon your bench. Its blade stretches nearly as long as your arm. The wooden handle bears countless marks from hard-working hands. The third farmer carries several pruning hooks used for tending orchards and vineyards. One by one, they arrange their tools in neat rows. No one seems in a hurry. Harvest waits for no one, yet life here still moves with patience. The farmers remove their hats and sit together beneath the shade of a large elm tree beside your workshop. Someone produces a loaf of bread wrapped in cloth. Another shares a small wheel of cheese. A third offers fresh pears gathered that very morning. Without discussion, the simple meal is shared among everyone. Including you. Including your apprentice. In the village, generosity is rarely announced. It simply happens. You break off a piece of bread. Its crust is crisp from the baker's oven. Inside, it is still pleasantly warm. Fresh cheese follows. Then a slice of sweet pear. It is a modest meal. Yet after a long morning beside the fire, it tastes wonderful. For a little while, work pauses. The breeze rustles gently through the leaves overhead. Bees drift lazily among nearby wildflowers. Somewhere in the distance, a cuckoo calls from the edge of the forest. No one feels the need to speak loudly. The peaceful sounds of the countryside are enough. Eventually, you rise and return to the forge. The farmers continue their quiet conversation outside while your apprentice prepares the sharpening bench. Unlike repairing broken iron, sharpening requires no glowing charcoal. No roaring fire. Only careful hands. You lift the first sickle. Its curved blade has become dull but remains beautifully balanced. You place it against the large sandstone grinding wheel standing beside the workshop. Your apprentice begins turning the wooden handle. Slowly. Steadily. The heavy stone wheel rotates with a soft rumbling sound. Its surface has been worn smooth by many years of faithful service. You hold the blade against the turning stone at just the right angle. A faint shower of tiny sparks appears. Not the bright burst seen at the anvil. Only delicate orange flecks dancing briefly before fading away. The sound is gentle. A quiet hiss. Almost like rain falling upon dry leaves. Back and forth. Slowly. Patiently. The edge begins to return. You stop often, running your thumb lightly, not across the edge, but along it, to feel its progress. Sharpness is judged as much by touch as by sight. One by one, each sickle receives the same careful attention. Then the scythe. Then the pruning hooks. The work is repetitive. Comfortably so. There is a peaceful rhythm in repeating the same careful movement dozens of times. Perhaps that is why you have never grown tired of this craft. Every tool is slightly different. Every customer has a different story. Yet the work itself remains familiar. Reliable. Steady. Much like the changing seasons. Outside, the fields continue swaying beneath the afternoon breeze. Soon they will be filled with farmers gathering golden grain beneath the summer sun. And when that day arrives, every clean harvest stroke will begin here. With the quiet patience of a blacksmith who understood that even the smallest edge could help feed an entire village. The last sickle rests neatly upon the workbench. Its edge catches the afternoon light with a soft silver gleam. Beside it lies the freshly sharpened scythe, followed by the pruning hooks, each one cleaned, oiled, and ready for the busy harvest ahead. You place the final tool into the waiting bundle. Outside, the three farmers rise from beneath the elm tree. They inspect each blade carefully. One farmer runs his thumb, not across the edge, but gently along its side, and gives an approving nod. Another lifts the scythe into the sunlight, smiling as the polished steel reflects the bright summer sky. "There is good work here," he says quietly. You thank him with a simple smile. In your trade, words are few. Good workmanship speaks for itself. The farmers secure their tools with rope, load them onto a small wooden cart, and begin the slow journey back toward the fields. The wheels creak gently over the uneven road. Soon, only a faint cloud of dust remains behind them. Your apprentice closes the workshop door halfway to keep the afternoon breeze from scattering wood shavings and charcoal dust across the floor. Inside, the forge has settled into a peaceful warmth. The fire no longer roars. Instead, it glows quietly, sending soft waves of heat through the stone building. You wipe the anvil with an oiled cloth. The smooth steel face reflects the dancing firelight like the surface of a calm pond. It is a habit your own master taught you many years ago. Take care of your tools, he often said, and they will take care of you. Those words have remained with you ever since. Just then, a distant bell rings. Once. Twice. 3 times. It is the church bell announcing the beginning of market day. The village square, already lively, grows even busier. Merchants arrive from neighboring villages with wagons filled with goods collected over many weeks of travel. Some bring barrels of salted fish from the coast. Others carry woven baskets overflowing with apples, onions, and fresh herbs. A cloth merchant carefully unfolds brightly colored wool dyed with natural plants. Deep blues. Rich reds. Golden yellows. The colors brighten the marketplace beneath the clear summer sky. Traveling potters arrange rows of glazed bowls upon wooden tables. Nearby, a beekeeper proudly displays jars of thick golden honey. Their sweet fragrance drifts through the warm afternoon air. Children gather around a storyteller sitting beneath the great oak tree. His weathered face lights up as he begins sharing tales of distant castles, mysterious forests, and wandering pilgrims. His audience listens with wide eyes. Whether every story is true hardly matters. The telling itself brings joy. You remain in your workshop, though the open doorway allows you to enjoy the cheerful sounds drifting from the square. Laughter. Conversation. The occasional cheerful bark of a dog weaving happily between market stalls. The village feels full of life. Before long, new visitors begin appearing at your forge. The first is a traveling cooper. His wagon carries finely crafted wooden barrels stacked neatly one upon another. He removes a small iron hoop from the back of the cart. It slipped loose on the journey, he explains. You examine it carefully. The hoop has stretched slightly after many miles over rough roads. Fortunately, it needs only a small adjustment. You warm the iron gently. Not until it glows. Only enough to make it easier to shape. Several light taps upon the anvil return the hoop to its proper size. The cooper smiles. He thanks you with a small wedge of smoked cheese wrapped in linen. Such exchanges are common. Not every payment arrives in coins. Sometimes food, cloth, or skilled labor carries equal value. Soon after, a traveling tailor arrives carrying a pair of enormous iron shears. They have served faithfully for many years but no longer close as smoothly as they once did. You tighten the central rivet with careful precision. A few drops of oil restore their quiet movement. The tailor opens and closes the shears several times. The blades glide together with satisfying ease. His smile tells you everything you need to know. Throughout the afternoon, visitors continue to arrive. A shepherd requests a new bell for one of his sheep. A baker asks for replacement hooks to hang bread peels beside the oven. A candle maker brings a bent iron stand that has tipped over too many times. Each repair is small, almost ordinary. Yet together they form the quiet heartbeat of village life. Your apprentice notices something. "Master," he says softly. "Nearly everyone who comes here smiles when they leave." You pause for a moment. Then you look around your workshop. The glowing forge. The rocky islands emerge. The worn hammers hanging neatly upon the wall. Perhaps he is right. People rarely visit a blacksmith because everything is perfect. They come because something is broken. A tool. A wheel. A hinge. A horseshoe. When they leave, they carry hope that tomorrow's work will be a little easier. You rest your hand gently upon the smooth face of the anvil. "This workshop," you say quietly, "does more than shape iron." Your apprentice waits patiently. It helps people continue their lives. He considers those words for a long moment. Then he nods slowly. Outside, the afternoon sun begins its gradual descent toward the western hills. The golden light grows softer. Long shadows stretch across the marketplace. Merchants begin selling their final goods before preparing for tomorrow's journey. Children grow quieter after a long day of excitement. Even the birds seem to sing more softly now. Inside the forge, the fire continues its gentle crackling. Another peaceful day moves steadily toward evening. And you find yourself grateful, not for wealth or fame, but for the simple privilege of spending another ordinary day helping your neighbors, one careful repair at a time. The marketplace slowly settles into the gentle rhythm of late afternoon. One by one, the merchants begin packing away their goods. The cloth seller carefully folds bright lengths of wool into neat bundles. The potter wraps each bowl in soft straw before placing it inside sturdy wooden crates. The beekeeper seals the last jar of honey with a circle of waxed cloth. Nothing is hurried. Everyone knows tomorrow will bring another day. The village square gradually becomes quieter. Only the occasional laugh drifts across the warm summer air. Inside your forge, the fire burns lower than it did that morning. The brightest flames have disappeared, leaving behind a deep bed of glowing charcoal. Its warmth fills the workshop with a comforting heat. You take a long iron rake and gently spread the coals. The movement is slow and practiced. A blacksmith learns that a fire must be cared for just as carefully as any tool. Your apprentice begins sweeping the stone floor. Tiny curls of wood from the carpenter's axe handle. Small flakes of iron from sharpened sickles. A few grains of charcoal dust. Each day leaves behind quiet reminders of honest work. As he sweeps, the soft scratching of the broom mixes with the steady crackling of the forge. It is a peaceful sound. One that you have heard nearly every evening for many years. Just as you begin organizing tomorrow's work, a horse appears outside your workshop. Unlike the travelers from market day, this rider wears the simple blue and green colors of the nearby manor. His horse walks calmly, without urgency. The man dismounts with careful movements and removes his cap. "Good evening, Master Blacksmith. And to you." He introduces himself as Robert, the steward of the local lord's estate. His voice is polite but unhurried. "There is a matter at the manor that requires your skill." You listen quietly. Robert explains that one of the great iron hinges supporting the castle's main gate has begun to sag. The gate still opens. The gate still closes. But each movement brings a deep groan from the old iron. No one wishes to wait until the damage becomes worse. You nod thoughtfully. Preventing problems is often easier than repairing them. The steward seems relieved. "If tomorrow suits you, a cart will arrive after sunrise." "It will be ready," you reply. Robert thanks you sincerely before mounting his horse once again. As he rides away, you watch the evening sunlight glimmer across the polished buckles of his saddle. Soon he disappears beyond the hill leading toward the manor. Your apprentice looks up from his sweeping. "Have you worked there before?" You smile. "Many times." He leans his broom against the wall. "I've never seen the manor." "It isn't so different from the village," you say. "There are simply more buildings, and larger ones." The apprentice chuckles softly. He had imagined towering walls filled with endless mystery. Perhaps tomorrow he will see for himself. You walk toward a heavy wooden chest resting beneath the workbench. Inside are your largest tools. Massive hammers. Long iron punches. Oversized tongs. These are not used every day. Most village work requires smaller, more delicate instruments. But repairing gates, bridges, and mill machinery demands stronger equipment. One by one, you inspect each tool. The handles remain solid. The iron faces are smooth and clean. Satisfied, you arrange them neatly beside the doorway, ready for the morning journey. Outside, the evening grows quieter. The last market wagon rolls away, its wheels creaking gently over the dirt road. A flock of swallows circles above the rooftops before settling beneath the eaves of nearby cottages. The western sky glows with shades of amber and rose. Long shadows stretch across the fields where tomorrow's harvest slowly ripens. You step outside your workshop. For a moment, you simply stand. The air has cooled pleasantly. A gentle breeze carries the scent of fresh hay from distant meadows. Somewhere nearby, cows make their slow journey back toward their barns. Their bells ring softly with each careful step. The village feels peaceful, safe. Children's laughter grows quieter as families gather for their evening meals. Smoke rises lazily from cottage chimneys. The comforting aroma of vegetable stew drifts through the streets. Your own stomach quietly reminds you that supper cannot be far away. Inside the forge, you return to the fire one last time. Using the iron rake, you gather the glowing charcoal into a compact mound. Then you carefully cover much of it with a layer of fine ash. The apprentice watches closely. "Why cover the fire?" he asks. "So it sleeps," you answer gently. "If we care for it tonight, it will reward us tomorrow." He nods. The lesson makes sense. Even fire deserves rest. You close the heavy wooden doors of the workshop. The familiar scent of charcoal lingers on your clothes as you begin the short walk home. Above you, the first evening stars appear one by one. The church bell rings softly in the distance, marking the end of another working day. Tomorrow will bring a journey beyond the village. New work, new sights, and another opportunity to shape iron that quietly serves the lives of many. For now, though, the village settles into peaceful silence. And so do you. Long before the sun rises above the eastern hills, the village still rests beneath a blanket of soft blue twilight. The stars linger overhead, though they have begun to fade one by one. A gentle mist lies across the fields, blurring the distant trees into pale gray shapes. You wake before the church bell rings. The familiar stiffness in your shoulders reminds you of yesterday's work, yet it is a welcome feeling. It is the quiet ache of a life spent building rather than destroying. After washing your face with cool water from a wooden basin, you enjoy a simple breakfast. A slice of coarse brown bread. A small piece of hard cheese. A cup of warm oat porridge sweetened with a spoonful of honey from the village beekeeper. It is not a grand meal, but it is nourishing. Outside, the morning air is crisp and refreshing. The smell of damp earth fills your lungs as you step into the lane. Tiny droplets of dew sparkle on every blade of grass, reflecting the first hints of dawn. When you reach the forge, your apprentice is already waiting. He smiles as you approach. "I thought I might arrive before you," he says. "You nearly did," you reply with a quiet laugh. Together, you open the heavy wooden doors. Inside, yesterday's fire still sleeps beneath its blanket of ash. Using the iron poker, you gently uncover the hidden embers. A faint red glow greets you. The fire has survived the night. Just as you hoped. A few handfuls of dry straw. Several small sticks. A careful breath from the bellows. Within minutes, soft orange flames begin dancing once again. The workshop slowly fills with warmth. You check the tools prepared the previous evening. The large forging hammer. Heavy tongs. Iron wedges. A small pot of oil. A bundle of spare rivets. Everything is exactly where it should be. Not long afterward, the sound of wooden wheels approaches. A sturdy horse-drawn cart stops outside your workshop. Robert, the steward, climbs down with his usual calm expression. Good morning. And to you. The large work tools are loaded carefully into the cart. Nothing is tossed or hurried. Each hammer is wrapped in cloth to prevent damage. Each tool has its place. When everything is secured, you and your apprentice climb aboard. The horse leans gently into its harness. The wheels begin to roll. Your village slowly disappears behind you. The road leading toward the manor is little more than two worn tracks crossing the countryside. Tall grasses sway softly on either side. Morning mist drifts across the open fields like thin white silk. The world feels wonderfully quiet. Only the slow rhythm of the horse's hooves. The gentle creaking of wooden wheels. And birds greeting the new day. A pair of rabbits dart across the path before disappearing into the hedgerow. High above, swallows circle effortlessly through the brightening sky. The eastern horizon glows with warm shades of gold and pale orange. Soon, the first rays of sunlight spill across the countryside. The mist begins to lift. Rolling fields of barley stretch as far as the eye can see. Their golden heads ripple together beneath the morning breeze, creating waves that seem almost like the sea. Here and there, small farm cottages appear beside the road. Most are built of timber and white plaster, with roofs thickly covered in straw. Smoke curls lazily from their chimneys. Outside one cottage, an elderly woman hangs freshly washed linen on a rope stretched between two apple trees. Nearby, a young boy carries a wooden bucket toward a well. He pauses to wave as your cart passes. You raise your hand in return. There is no hurry. Everyone seems to move with the peaceful rhythm of the countryside. The road gently climbs a low hill. From the top, the view opens wide. Behind you, your own village appears small and peaceful, nestled among green fields and scattered oak trees. Ahead, dense woodland stretches across the landscape. Tall oaks. Beeches. Ash trees. Their leaves shimmer softly whenever the breeze passes through them. The road enters the forest. Immediately, the air grows cooler. Sunlight filters through thousands of green leaves, painting moving patterns across the ground. Birdsong echoes from every direction. Somewhere deeper among the trees, a woodpecker taps steadily against an ancient trunk. The sound is surprisingly soothing. Robert points toward a narrow stream crossing beneath a simple wooden bridge. "We'll stop here for a short rest." The horse seems grateful. It lowers its head to drink from the cool, clear water. You kneel beside the stream and splash a little water across your hands. It is wonderfully cold. Small fish dart between smooth stones beneath the surface. Dragonflies skim gracefully above the water. For several peaceful minutes, no one speaks. The forest itself provides all the conversation anyone could need. Leaves whisper overhead. Water trickles gently around rounded rocks. A squirrel pauses on a nearby branch before continuing its morning search for food. Eventually, Robert gives a gentle pat to the horse's neck. It is time. The journey continues. The forest gradually thins until the road emerges into open countryside once more. Then, far in the distance, you finally see it. The manor. Its stone walls catch the morning sunlight, glowing softly against the blue sky. A square tower rises above the surrounding buildings, not intimidating, but reassuring, standing watch over the nearby farms and villages. As you draw closer, you notice neat vegetable gardens, orchards heavy with fruit, and broad pastures where sheep graze peacefully. The manor is not merely a home for the local lord. It is the center of a busy community, where dozens of families live and work together. Before long, the great wooden gate comes into view. Even from a distance, you hear it. A deep, slow groan as one side swings open. Robert smiles knowingly. There is our patient. You climb down from the cart, feeling the familiar weight of your tools as you begin preparing for another day's honest work. The gate waits quietly before you. And so does another opportunity to shape iron with calm hands and patient skill. You stand quietly before the great wooden gate. Up close, it feels even larger than it did from the road. Two thick oak doors rise high above your head, each one strengthened with long bands of hand-forged iron. Hundreds of dark iron nails hold the timber together, their broad heads arranged in neat rows that catch the morning light. You place one hand gently against the wood. The oak is cool beneath your fingers. Its surface is worn smooth in places where countless hands have pushed the gate open over many years. This gate has welcomed merchants carrying wool and grain. It has opened for shepherds returning at sunset. It has allowed travelers, pilgrims, craftsmen, and farmers to pass through in every season. Like many things in the Middle Ages, it is built not only to last, but to serve generation after generation. Robert rests a hand on one of the heavy doors. Listen. Together, you push. The gate begins to move. At first, only the deep rumble of wood against stone can be heard. Then comes the sound he mentioned. A long, slow groan. The lower hinge strains under the weight of the enormous door. The sound is not sharp or alarming. It is the tired sigh of old iron asking for a little care. You smile gently. I think it has earned some attention. Robert chuckles. So have I. Your apprentice kneels beside the lower hinge. Years of dust and weather have collected around the iron fittings. Tiny bits of dried mud cling to the stone. Spider webs stretch between the hinge straps. Nature quietly settles wherever people forget to look. You brush away the dust with a stiff broom. The iron slowly reveals itself. The hinge is beautifully made. Long ago, another blacksmith shaped every curve by hand. The decorative ends curl into elegant spirals, proving that even practical objects could carry beauty. You pause for a moment. Running your fingers lightly across the old hammer marks, you can almost imagine the craftsman who made them. Perhaps he stood beside a forge much like your own. Perhaps he also rose before dawn each morning. Perhaps another apprentice once watched him just as yours watches you now. Time changes many things. But honest craftsmanship speaks across generations. You begin your inspection carefully. The hinge itself remains strong. The iron has not cracked. Instead, the problem lies elsewhere. The large iron pin supporting the gate has worn smooth after decades of movement. Every opening, every closing, every gentle swing has slowly polished the metal until a small gap has formed. It is only the width of a grain of barley. Yet that tiny space allows the enormous gate to settle lower than it should. Small things often create large problems. You explain this to your apprentice. He kneels beside you, studying the worn pin closely. It hardly seems damaged, he says. That is why we inspect carefully, you reply. The biggest faults are not always the easiest to see. He nods thoughtfully. Another lesson quietly joins the many he has already learned. Your tools are unloaded from the cart. The heavy hammer, large punches, broad tongs. Everything rests neatly upon a thick wool blanket spread across the ground. Several manor workers gather nearby. Not because they doubt your skill, simply because they are curious. Repairs to such a large gate do not happen often. One elderly gardener leans comfortably upon his rake. A stable boy watches while gently brushing a gray horse. Two kitchen servants pause for a moment on their way to the gardens, carrying baskets filled with fresh herbs. No one interrupts. Everyone simply observes. You begin by removing the great iron pin. It refuses to move at first. Years of faithful service have locked it firmly into place. You place a stout punch against its end. Then, with calm determination, you lift your largest hammer. The first strike echoes across the manor courtyard. Clang! A flock of pigeons rises briefly from the nearby roof before settling again. The pin shifts only slightly. That is enough. You strike once more. Clang. A tiny movement. Then another. Patiently, steadily, the pin begins sliding free. There is no need for force alone. Persistence is often stronger. At last, the great pin emerges. You hold it in both hands. It is surprisingly heavy. Its surface bears the polished marks of countless years of quiet service. You smile. This old friend has done its duty. Robert nods with quiet respect. It has. Rather than replacing it entirely, you decide to restore it. Good iron is valuable. And there is honor in preserving well-made work whenever possible. Your apprentice prepares a small portable forge beside the gate. Within minutes, bright charcoal glows once again. The familiar warmth surrounds you. Even away from your own workshop, the comforting scent of smoke and iron feels like home. You place the worn pin into the fire. Gradually, its dark surface turns deep red, then orange. The metal softens ever so slightly. When it is ready, you carry it carefully to a traveling anvil brought along for the journey. The manor falls almost silent. Even the curious onlookers seem to hold their breath. You lift your hammer. The first gentle strike lands with quiet confidence. Clang. Not to reshape the whole pin. Only the worn section. Another careful strike. Then another. Each blow restores the iron little by little. No hurry. No wasted movement. Only patient craftsmanship. Above you, white clouds drift lazily across the bright summer sky. A light breeze carries the scent of lavender from the manor gardens. Somewhere nearby, bees move quietly among the flowers. The peaceful sounds blend perfectly with the steady rhythm of your work. And for a little while longer, the entire manor seems to breathe in time with the calm music of hammer upon iron. The iron pin has cooled just enough to handle. You lift it carefully from the anvil, turning it slowly in your hands. The worn section is gone. In its place is a smooth, evenly rounded surface that will once again carry the enormous weight of the manor gate. Before fitting it back into the hinge, you prepare a small mixture of rendered animal fat and fine charcoal powder. It is a simple lubricant, known to many blacksmiths. Nothing magical. Nothing complicated. Just a practical way to help iron move more smoothly while protecting it from moisture. Using a clean piece of linen, you spread a thin layer over the freshly restored pin. The dark metal catches the sunlight, giving it a soft, satin sheen. Your apprentice watches every movement. You always oil the iron before putting it back. Whenever I can, you answer. A little care today may save many hours of work years from now. He nods thoughtfully. Small lessons like this often stay with him longer than the larger ones. Together, you return to the towering gate. Two manor workers steady the heavy oak door while you guide the hinge into position. The gate is far heavier than anything found in the village. Every movement requires patience. No one rushes. Robert stands nearby, quietly offering directions as needed. Raise it a little. There. Hold. The workers lift together. You slide the restored pin downward. For a brief moment, it meets resistance. Then, with a soft metallic click, it settles perfectly into place. You step back. The hinge now looks exactly as it should. Simple. Strong. Ready for many more years of faithful service. Only one question remains. Will it move as smoothly as you hoped? Robert places both hands against the great oak gate. Everyone nearby watches in silence. Slowly, the gate begins to swing. The enormous hinges carry its weight with surprising ease. No groaning. No scraping. Only the deep, satisfying sound of well-balanced timber moving gently through the morning air. The difference is immediate. Even the horse standing nearby flicks an ear toward the quiet movement. Robert smiles broadly. I had almost forgotten it could be this quiet. You smile in return. Good iron prefers silence. Several manor workers exchange approving nods. The elderly gardener chuckles softly. I suspect this gate will outlive all of us. It may, you reply. If people continue caring for it. The steward reaches into a leather pouch and places several bright silver coins into your hand. Then, almost as an afterthought, he adds something unexpected. A small loaf of freshly baked white bread. Unlike the darker rye bread common in the village, this loaf is made from finely sifted wheat flour. Its golden crust still feels warm. Our baker insisted, Robert says. You've earned more than coin today. You thank him sincerely. The bread's comforting aroma fills the air. Your apprentice smiles. He knows tonight's supper has just become something special. The tools are cleaned one by one before being returned to the cart. You wipe each hammer carefully. The tongs are brushed free of ash. Even the smallest punch is placed back into its proper compartment. A blacksmith's work is not finished when the repair is complete. It ends only when every tool is ready for the next task. The portable forge still glows softly beside the gate. You spread its charcoal carefully, allowing the fire to cool in peace. No sudden splashing of water. No harsh ending. Only a slow return to quiet. The afternoon sun hangs lower now, casting long golden shadows across the manor courtyard. Swallows dart gracefully overhead. Beyond the stone walls, fields shimmer beneath the gentle breeze. For a few moments, you simply stand and admire the repaired gate. It looks almost unchanged. That is often the sign of the finest repair. Nothing appears new. Nothing draws attention. Everything simply works as it was always meant to. And sometimes, that is the greatest success a craftsman can hope for. The great gate now moves with quiet confidence. Where there had once been a weary groan, there is only the gentle sound of well-balanced wood resting upon carefully tended iron. For several moments, no one says anything. There is no need. The repaired gate speaks for itself. Robert places one hand upon the smooth oak. I believe this gate has found another lifetime. You smile modestly. It simply needed someone to listen. He nods. That is what a good craftsman does. The afternoon slowly gives way to evening. Long rays of golden sunlight stretch across the manor courtyard, turning every stone warm shades of amber and honey. The day's work is finished. There is no urgency now. No broken tools waiting on the workbench. No anxious customers watching from the doorway. Only the quiet satisfaction that comes after honest labor. Robert turns toward you and your apprentice. You must not leave before sharing our evening meal. You begin to politely refuse. There is still daylight enough to return home. But there is no need to hurry, he replies with a kind smile. The road will still be there tomorrow. His words are difficult to argue with. After a brief glance toward your apprentice, whose hopeful expression says everything, you accept the invitation. The manor's kitchen is larger than any room in your own cottage, yet it feels warm rather than grand. Thick oak beams support the ceiling overhead. Copper pots hang neatly above a wide stone hearth where several cooks quietly prepare supper. The smell is wonderful. Fresh bread. Roasted vegetables. Herbs gathered from the manor garden. A pot of barley stew bubbles gently over the fire, filling the room with comforting aromas. Nothing here is extravagant. Despite what stories from distant lands may suggest, most medieval meals, even at a manor, are simple and nourishing. Luxury is reserved for special occasions. Everyday life is built upon modest comforts. You and your apprentice take seats at a long wooden table already shared by stable hands, gardeners, cooks, and servants. There is no loud celebration. Only quiet conversation. The steady clink of wooden bowls. Soft laughter. The peaceful sounds of people ending another day's work. A young kitchen maid places a bowl of steaming stew before you. Chunks of carrot, onion, barley, and tender beef float in the rich broth. Beside it rests a generous slice of warm white bread. The loaf Robert gave you earlier has been set aside for your journey home. You offer your thanks. The first spoonful is wonderfully satisfying. The warmth spreads through your body after the long day beside iron and fire. Your apprentice eats with youthful enthusiasm before remembering to slow down. One of the gardeners chuckles kindly. I used to eat like that when I was his age. The apprentice smiles sheepishly. Across the table sits an elderly stable master with silver hair and kind eyes. He has spent nearly his entire life caring for horses. As supper continues, he begins sharing quiet stories. Not tales of battles or kings. Simply stories of ordinary days. He remembers a winter so cold that the manor pond froze solid enough for children to slide across its surface. He remembers a mare that refused to leave the side of an injured foal for 3 days. He remembers planting an oak tree as a young boy. Now, more than 50 years later, its branches shade half the courtyard. You listen carefully. Simple memories often become the most treasured. Outside, the sky slowly deepens from pale blue to soft violet. Through the open doorway, you watch swallows make their final flights of the day before disappearing beneath the eaves. One by one, lanterns are lit around the courtyard. Their gentle golden glow reflects from the stone walls, creating small pools of warm light against the coming darkness. After the meal, you step outside. The evening air feels pleasantly cool after the warmth of the kitchen. The manor has grown remarkably quiet. Somewhere in the distance, sheep settle into their pens. A cow lets out one final low call before silence returns. The scent of lavender drifts through the garden. Nearby, roses climb along a low stone wall, their blossoms barely visible beneath the fading light. Your apprentice joins you. He gazes upward. I have never seen so many stars. You follow his eyes. Without the smoke and bright lights of distant cities, the heavens stretch endlessly overhead. Thousands upon thousands of stars sparkle above the countryside. A pale band of the Milky Way crosses the sky from horizon to horizon. You point toward the brightest stars. When I was your age, you say softly, my master taught me that travelers often found their way by those lights. The apprentice studies them carefully. It makes the world feel very large. It is. And yet, you continue, every village, every farm, every workshop shares the same sky. For a long while, neither of you speaks. There is comfort in quiet companionship. The gentle chirping of crickets begins among the tall grasses. An owl calls from the edge of the nearby woodland. Its deep, steady hoot echoes across the peaceful fields. The manor seems almost asleep. Tomorrow, there will be more work. Fields to harvest. Animals to tend. Bread to bake. Tools to mend. But tonight, everything rests. You take one last look at the great gate. It stands silent beneath the stars. Strong. Dependable. Ready to greet another morning. Just like the people who built it. Just like the people who care for it still. And with that comforting thought, you prepare for the quiet journey home beneath the moonlit sky. The last lantern in the manor courtyard flickers gently in the evening breeze. Its warm golden light spills across the ancient stones, creating long, soft shadows that stretch toward the great gate you repaired only hours ago. You take one final look at the hinges. They rest quietly now. No groaning. No strain. Only silence. That is exactly as it should be. Robert walks with you to the waiting cart. He places the loaf of fresh white bread into your hands once more, along with a small cloth bundle. For tomorrow's breakfast, he says kindly. Inside are a few slices of smoked cheese and 2 crisp apples from the manor orchard. You thank him warmly. Simple gifts often carry the greatest meaning. They are offered not because they are expected, but because they are sincere. Your apprentice carefully secures the tools in the back of the cart. Each hammer rests in its usual place. The tongs are wrapped in linen to keep them from knocking together during the journey. The oil flask is tucked safely into a wooden box. Nothing is left to chance. The horse shifts patiently, its breath visible in the cool evening air. You gently pat its neck before climbing aboard. The leather reins feel smooth and familiar in your hands. With a quiet click of your tongue, the horse begins to walk. The wooden wheels roll softly across the packed earth of the manor road. Behind you, the manor grows smaller with every passing moment. Soon, only the glow of its lanterns remains visible between the trees. Then even those disappear. Night has fully arrived. Above you, the sky stretches farther than words can describe. The moon is nearly full. Its silver light bathes the countryside in a peaceful glow, bright enough to reveal the winding road ahead. The fields shimmer beneath the moonlight. Every blade of grass seems touched with pale silver. The air is wonderfully still. Only the steady rhythm of the horse's hooves accompanies your thoughts. Clop, clop, clop. The sound is slow, gentle, comforting. Your apprentice sits quietly beside you. The excitement of the day has given way to pleasant tiredness. For a long while, neither of you speaks. There is no need. Some silences are meant to be shared. The road leads once again toward the forest. During daylight, it had felt cheerful and bright. At night, it feels different. Not frightening. Simply mysterious. Tall oaks stand like silent guardians along the path. Their broad branches sway gently whenever the breeze stirs. Moonlight filters through thousands of leaves, creating shifting patterns upon the ground. It is as though the forest itself is breathing. An owl calls from somewhere high among the branches. Its deep, steady hoot echoes through the trees before fading into the distance. A second owl answers from much farther away. The forest feels alive, yet perfectly peaceful. A family of deer appears at the edge of the road. The largest doe lifts her head, watching quietly as your cart approaches. For several heartbeats, you simply observe one another. Then, with graceful movements, she leads her two fawns back into the shelter of the trees. Their white tails disappear into the shadows almost as quickly as they appeared. The horse continues at the same unhurried pace. There is no reason to rush. Traveling at night requires patience. The road is uneven in places. Roots occasionally rise beneath the packed earth. Small stones catch the moonlight. Every now and then, you guide the horse gently around a puddle left by yesterday's rain. The wheels make only the softest sound. Some distance ahead, the quiet murmur of water reaches your ears. Soon, the familiar wooden bridge comes into view. The same stream where you had rested that morning now reflects the moon like polished silver. You bring the cart to a gentle stop. The horse lowers its head to drink once again. You climb down and walk to the edge of the stream. The water moves slowly over smooth stones, carrying tiny reflections of the stars downstream. You kneel for a moment. The cool night air brushes against your face. A frog croaks softly from the reeds. Crickets sing their endless evening song. Fireflies drift lazily above the grass, their tiny lights appearing and disappearing like floating stars. Your apprentice joins you. "I've never noticed how peaceful the countryside is at night," he whispers. You smile. "Most people are asleep." He nods thoughtfully. "I suppose we've been missing it." "Perhaps," you reply. "Or perhaps nights like this are special because they are rare." For several quiet minutes, you simply listen. The stream. The breeze. The insects. The distant owl. The gentle breathing of the horse. Every sound belongs exactly where it is. Eventually, you return to the cart. The road home awaits. As the forest gradually gives way to open fields once more, your own village becomes visible in the distance. Only a handful of cottage windows still glow with candlelight. Most families have already gone to sleep. A thin ribbon of smoke rises from one chimney before disappearing into the cool night sky. The church bell tower stands dark and silent beneath the stars. You feel a quiet sense of gratitude. The journey has been long. The work has been satisfying. And home is close. The horse seems to know it too. Its steady steps continue toward the familiar village, carrying you through the peaceful countryside beneath the endless blanket of stars. The first light of dawn slips gently through the small window of your cottage. Outside, the village is still wrapped in silence. The moon has disappeared beyond the western hills, while the eastern sky slowly changes from deep blue to soft shades of lavender and gold. You wake naturally. Not because of an alarm. Not because someone calls your name. Simply because your body has learned the rhythm of countless mornings. For a few moments, you remain beneath your wool blanket, listening. A rooster crows somewhere across the village. Another answers in the distance. A cow shifts quietly inside a nearby barn. The peaceful sounds remind you that another ordinary day has begun. Yesterday's journey to the manor already feels like a pleasant memory. Today promises something different. No long travels. No enormous gates. No heavy repairs. Just the quiet work of the forge. After a simple breakfast of fresh bread, smoked cheese, and one of the sweet apples given by Robert, you walk toward your workshop. The village road is still damp with morning dew. Tiny birds hop between patches of grass, searching for seeds before the day grows warm. When you reach the forge, your apprentice is already waiting by the door. He carries a small basket filled with charcoal. "You've been busy already," you say with a smile. "I wanted the fire ready before you arrived." You nod with quiet approval. Without another word, the two of you begin the familiar morning routine. The doors open with their usual gentle creak. The ashes from yesterday are carefully brushed aside. Hidden embers still glow faintly beneath the gray blanket. A few handfuls of dry straw. Several thin pieces of oak. One slow pull of the bellows. Then another. Soon, the forge awakens once more. The fire breathes softly. Warmth spreads through the workshop. The scent of charcoal mixes with the cool morning air drifting through the open doorway. It feels like home. Unlike yesterday, no customers are waiting outside. Instead, today will be spent replenishing supplies. A blacksmith cannot wait until every nail has been sold or every hinge has been used. Quiet days are opportunities to prepare for busy ones. You begin with something simple. Nails. Hundreds of them. Perhaps thousands over the course of a year. Each begins as a slender iron rod heated until it glows orange. You lift the first piece onto the anvil. Your apprentice watches the familiar rhythm. Tap. Turn. Tap. Turn. Tap. Each strike gently draws the metal into a square shaft. Another few careful blows shape the pointed tip. Finally, the head is formed using a small iron tool with a neatly drilled hole. One finished nail. It takes only a few minutes. Yet each one will help build a roof. Secure a door. Strengthen a wagon. Or repair a fence. Small things often support great things. By mid-morning, a neat pile of freshly made nails fills a wooden tray beside the anvil. The apprentice smiles proudly. I never realized how many a village needs. You chuckle softly. Look around. He does. The workshop door itself is held together by nails. The tool rack upon the wall. The wooden stool where customers sit. Even the cart outside. Once he begins looking, he notices them everywhere. The ordinary becomes remarkable. Next, you prepare several iron hooks. Some will hang cooking pots above household fires. Others will support lanterns in barns or stables. Each hook begins straight. Then, with slow, careful pressure around the horn of the anvil, it curves gracefully into shape. No two are exactly alike. Some are large enough to support heavy kettles. Others are no bigger than a finger. The repetitive work becomes wonderfully calming. Heat. Hammer. Turn. Bend. Cool. Again. Heat. Hammer. Turn. Bend. Cool. The rhythm feels almost musical. Outside, village life continues at its gentle pace. The baker passes carrying 2 baskets of fresh bread. He waves cheerfully through the open doorway. A shepherd whistles to his flock as they wander toward distant meadows. Children chase one another around the village well, their laughter carried softly on the breeze. From somewhere beyond the cottages comes the steady knocking of the carpenter shaping new timber. Every craft has its own rhythm. Every trade contributes its own quiet song to the village. Near midday, a familiar visitor arrives. It is Margaret, the elderly widow who lives beside the church. She carries a small cloth bundle. Inside lies an old iron candlestick. One of its 3 legs has bent badly after being knocked from a table. It belonged to my mother, she explains. I hoped it might be saved. You lift the candlestick gently. Its surface has darkened with age, but delicate scrollwork still decorates its base. It is more than a household object. It is a memory. You smile reassuringly. I think it wishes to stand proudly again. Margaret laughs softly. I believe so too. Rather than rushing, you warm only the damaged section over a small charcoal fire. Too much heat could harm the finer details. Patience is more valuable than speed. Slowly, almost delicately, you guide the bent leg back into place. Not forcing. Not twisting. Simply encouraging the iron to remember its original shape. When the repair is complete, the candlestick stands perfectly level upon your workbench. Margaret places it carefully back into her bundle. For a moment, she runs her fingers over the restored leg. Thank you, she says quietly. It feels as though part of my family has come home. After she leaves, your apprentice remains thoughtful. He looks at the empty workbench. Today we fixed a memory. You pause before answering. Sometimes that is the most important work we do. The afternoon sunlight pours through the workshop door, casting warm golden light across the anvil. The fire crackles softly. A gentle breeze stirs the scent of charcoal and fresh cut hay. The forge feels peaceful. There are no grand adventures today. No noble visitors. No long journeys. Only ordinary work done with care. And perhaps that is exactly what makes this day so extraordinary. The afternoon slowly begins to soften. The bright sunlight that once poured through the workshop door now turns warm and golden, stretching long shadows across the stone floor. Dust floats lazily through the beams of light, rising and falling with every gentle breath of air that drifts inside. The forge still glows. Not with the fierce intensity of the morning, but with a calm, steady warmth that seems almost content after another honest day's work. You place the final iron hook into a wooden crate. Beside it rest neat rows of nails, several freshly forged hinges, 2 cooking pot hangers, and a handful of small repair pieces that will surely find a purpose in the days ahead. Your apprentice closes the ledger. Every repair, every order, every payment in coins, bread, eggs, or cheese has been carefully recorded. The pages are simple, but together they tell the quiet story of a village. A story built not by kings or battles, but by ordinary people helping one another. You walk once more around the workshop. Your hand rests briefly on each familiar tool. The heavy forging hammer. The lighter finishing hammer. The broad tongs worn smooth by years of use. The hardy tool fitted into the anvil. The chisels, punches, and files hanging neatly from their wooden pegs. Some of these tools belong to your master. Some belong to his master before him. You often wonder how many hands have held them. How many thousands of horseshoes they have shaped. How many plows they have repaired. How many homes they have quietly helped build. The apprentice notices your thoughtful expression. Do you ever think about who will use these tools after us? You smile gently. Every craftsman thinks about it. He looks around the workshop. I hope they care for them. I'm sure they will. The fire crackles softly beside you. You move toward the forge carrying one final shovel of charcoal. Not because it is needed today, but because tomorrow will surely bring more work. You spread the fresh charcoal carefully across the glowing coals. Then, just as you have done thousands of times before, you cover much of the fire with a blanket of fine gray ash. The bright orange glow slowly fades. Not disappearing. Simply resting. Sleeping until morning. Your apprentice watches in silence. Finally he asks, "Do you think the fire ever grows tired?" You chuckle quietly. Perhaps. You glance toward the quiet embers. But like us, it always seems ready for another day. The workshop grows cooler. The ringing of hammers has been replaced by the soft ticking of cooling iron. Occasionally, a tiny ember shifts beneath the ash, sending a faint red glow into the darkness. Outside, evening settles gently across the village. Smoke rises from cottage chimneys. The comforting aroma of vegetable stew and freshly baked bread drifts through the streets. Families gather around their tables. Children tell stories about their day. Dogs curl up beside warm hearths. The church bell rings slowly across the countryside. 1, 2, 3. Its deep notes roll gently over the fields before fading into the distance. You lift the heavy wooden bar across the workshop door. The familiar sound echoes softly inside the now quiet forge. For the first time since dawn, everything is still. You and your apprentice begin the short walk home. The village road is peaceful. Lanterns glow warmly in cottage windows. A farmer waves from his garden as he gathers the last vegetables before nightfall. Margaret, the elderly widow, has placed the repaired candlestick in her window. Its single candle burns steadily, casting a welcoming light into the lane. Seeing it standing proudly once more brings a quiet smile to your face. Further along the road, Thomas the farmer walks beside his horse. The repaired plow rests securely in his cart. "Worked beautifully today," he calls. "Thank you." You lift a hand in greeting. No long conversation is needed. Sometimes a simple wave says everything. The apprentice walks quietly beside you. After a while, he finally speaks. "When I first came here, I thought blacksmiths only made swords." You laugh softly. "So did many boys. But now, he pauses, searching for the right words. Now I think blacksmiths help hold the whole village together. You stop walking for a moment. The evening breeze stirs gently through the trees. Above you, the first stars begin to appear. One by one. Then dozens. Then hundreds. You look toward the sky. I believe you've learned the most important lesson. Together you continue walking beneath the growing blanket of stars. The Milky Way stretches across the heavens like a river of silver. Somewhere nearby, crickets begin their nightly song. An owl calls from the old oak tree beside the church. Its deep, peaceful hoot echoes through the still evening air. At your cottage door, you pause one final time. The forge chimney is just visible above the rooftops. No smoke rises now. The fire sleeps peacefully beneath its blanket of ash, waiting patiently for another dawn. Tomorrow, there will be another horseshoe to fit, another plow to mend, another hinge to straighten, another family to help. The work of a blacksmith is never truly finished. And perhaps that is a comforting thought. For as long as villages stand, as long as fields are planted, as long as homes need doors, wagons need wheels, and hearths need cooking hooks, there will always be someone quietly tending a fire before sunrise. Someone listening to the language of iron. Someone shaping strength with patience. Someone whose name may never appear in a history book, yet whose work becomes part of countless ordinary lives. You step inside your cottage. The wooden door closes gently behind you. Outside, the village settles into complete silence. The stars continue their slow journey across the night sky. The forge rests. The village rests. And at last, so do you. Good night.